Hey, I'm here today with one of my personal mentors and guru, Jason Fladlien. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today, Jason.
I am so pleased to be here.
Awesome. So there's so many things that we could talk about because you are an expert in so many different things and have helped me personally in my journey, first on Amazon and now in the crypto space. So today I wanted to talk to you about crypto. So a little birdie told me that you used to be pretty anti-crypto. And then almost not quite 12 months ago, something happened to change your mind. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I'd known about crypto, Regina, since I want to say 2012, 2011, 2013, when it was just a tiny little baby back then. I knew about Bitcoin because as a marketer and as a publisher, I try to study all the trends to know what's happening, and spotting trends, what makes a trend, what moves the market, et cetera, et cetera. So I was very clued into crypto, but at first I was like everybody. It was like, this is ridiculous. It's never going to last. What a silly little joke. Come on now, let's be real. And then I watched it go up throughout the years. And even then I was nonplussed by it because I hadn't had a use case. Nobody was buying stuff with Bitcoin. And
didn't they buy pizza at some point?
yeah, as a joke, they bought a pizza, right? And I'm surprised they could find somebody to take Bitcoin in exchange for a pizza because it was that worthless back then. Now, of course, that pizza fluctuates between $250 million to $500 million, depending on what the Bitcoin market is doing. But it just seemed to me like it was a lot of hype with no substance. And then
a friend of mine actually did sell a sleep mask. He was selling sleep masks and he sold a sleep mask for a whole Bitcoin and now cannot find his keys and doesn't know where it is. So there you go.
And you hear a lot about that too. So being an early adopter didn't seem that advantageous and I don't have any regrets over it. I remember in like 2015, I had a client in the options trading space and he says, oh, we started taking Bitcoin as a payment. And I laughed at him. I'm like, God, okay, I mean, why? And then it went up in value and he sold it and he made a whole bunch of money. And I'm like, oh, we should have been taking Bitcoin, in our e-commerce business. But again, who knows? Hindsight's 2020 and all that. So as it matured, I thought, okay, there might be some validity to this. I'm still not quite certain, but then my mind switches into, is there an advantage? Because I'm not a huge fan personally of being an early adopter just for the sake of, hey, it might be big someday. To me, that doesn't seem like an advantage. That seems very risky. There might be some non-financial incentive to do something like that, because maybe, for the same reason people play lottery tickets, between you and me, yeah. Regina, I don't buy lottery tickets. I don't want to buy lottery tickets. It's not fun for me because I don't want to take on a statistical disadvantage when it comes to my money. And so the thrill of it doesn't replace the huge disadvantage that I'm putting myself under. And so when I saw crypto take off, I was like, oh, good for them. For those who can manage to deal with the volatility and the mania, and maybe they made some money, good for them, but I don't have an advantage. What do I know? I know I can't time a market. I was fortunate enough to know that, still do know that. I don't know when the market's going to go up. I don't know when the market's going to go down. I don't want to try to figure out if it's going to go up or down because I'm pretty smart. At least that's what everybody says. And I feel like I couldn't even scratch the surface. Like, I don't feel like I have anywhere near the intelligence it would take if it is possible to time the market, which I'm not sure even for the biggest geniuses, unless they have some other factor working for them, some sort of way where they can manipulate the market. I still don't think it's possible. I wasn't sure. So I was totally out. And all of that, of course, changed in March of last year, which would be 2021, when Dan Hollings came to me and on a Zoom meeting, kind of like what we're on right now. He's like, let me show you what
I believe you were tricked into that. Is that right?
I was totally tricked into that because there's more background to this, right? Because I have a very unique position. So in 2015, we had set the record, which still stands to this day, for the biggest promotion as an affiliate that's ever existed in the marketing, internet, digital marketing space, right? And so just like you, I find products that I think are the best, and I try to find the customers that would best benefit, put those two together, and I get a referral fee, I get a commission. in order to do that. That's how an affiliate works. And so when we set that record, I had a line around the block of folks wanting me to promote their product. So like, you just promoted that product, you set the record, sold about 10 million in 8 days of that product, promote mine, promote mine, promote mine. And so in that mix of many other types of products, there was over 100 crypto offerings that were put in front of me, where they wanted me to promote their product, endorse their product, market their product, publish their product. I had a gentleman offer me $1 million just to sign on for the project, even if it never got off the ground, and even if it wasn't successful, an unconditional $1 million, just to be the marketing strategist behind it, regardless of its outcome. And he was going to pay me more based on outcome, and I said no. And
whatever happened to that? Do you know? Whatever happened to it?
It was an ICO thing, so nobody talks about ICOs anymore. Thank God, because for those of you who don't know, and I hope you never had to know, ICO stood for initial coin offerings, which were their version of IPOs, initial public offerings, which is what public companies go through, with way less scrutiny and way more funny business involved. And for a period of time, until like that loophole was closed in the SEC, people were going out there and churning everything and doing ICO. And we were just, some people were doing it intentionally to scam. Other people didn't realize it was a scam. They thought it was legitimate, but it was still a scam. And so the ICO guys came after me as well. All the meme coin folks came after me because they were like, hey, you know how to market something. So they thought if you just built a story around it, miraculously, it would be successful. That's not the type of marketing we do. We find value.
Surely a coin named after your cat would,
would go well. Totally. So it's like, what we do is we find the intrinsic value that's not being communicated properly and unlock that. That's what we do. And so if there's garbage in, garbage out, if there's no value in, I can't turn it into value. And so just on and on and on and on and on and on, I saw all sorts of different sorts of setups like that. And so I was less enthusiastic about crypto, not just because of crypto itself, but because my tainted experience of most of the things that I seen were scams, and I'll never be a part of a scam. Other things were legitimate, but they still seem very unpredictable, meaning that, I might put them in front of an existing millionaire, because if they lose a whole bunch of money, big deal.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
But if I'm putting it in front of somebody who's nearing retirement, and like, this could be the difference or not, and instead they get into more debt, that's a huge deal. And so I'm like, I don't feel comfortable putting this in front of people that aren't already rich, which is our audience. Our audience is people who aren't rich, who need that financial independence. For the most part, that's who we serve. And so this is why I was jaded going into this conversation. And so I had to be tricked into it. So my business partner, Wilson Matos, who I would trust with my life. He is every bit of the reason why we have been so successful as I could ever claim to be. And Will had told me, hey, I need you to come onto this call as a favor to me. I can't tell you what it is, but I need you on this call. And so if Will tells me to do something, I do it. That's the kind of trust that we have with each other. So he gets me on this call. Now, it was with Dan, and I knew Dan. So I knew Dan Hollings. So this is what also makes this story so awesome, Regina, is unlike every other crypto person who had ever previously came to me, whispered sweet nothings in my ear to try to get me to promote them, right? I had zero working relationship with any of them. But I had a working relationship with Dan that predated some of my children. I had worked with Dan since 2010 or 2011, somewhere along those lines. So we're talking an 11-year history up at that point. And we had published stuff from him before too. So not only have we,
I bought some of Dan's stuff through you before.
Yeah, and we were the publisher behind it, right? So isn't that crazy how that works? And I also knew, because just to give you a little bit more history, is like the first thing we published with Dan was a mobile course, a course on mobile, how the web was going to go mobile. And if you understood the web was going to go mobile, this was the services that you could empower small businesses and local businesses that could be helpful to them. Now, everybody these days says, well, duh, of course, like 60% of web traffic comes from a mobile device.
Yep.
In 2010, less than 2% of traffic came from a mobile device. And so Dan knew that it was going to happen that way. And prior to us, Dan had worked as the marketing strategist for The Secret, the thing that was on Oprah, sold 300 million and all that jazz. And so Dan could see these trends and he could understand things in ways that nobody else could. He has this brilliant, beautiful mind about him. And so I knew it was Dan. I had no idea what it was about. We had this wonderful working relationship with Dan. We didn't publish all his stuff throughout the years, but we published some of his projects. And when he came to us, he sat down with us, and Dan is really, he's a great teacher. And so he knows exactly, like, hey, this student needs to hear this, or this person needs to hear this to understand this and get hooked in. So he went straight for it. He told me right away, he's like, this is what I'm doing, watch it. He didn't emphasize so much the crypto aspect initially. He emphasized the strategy behind it. And then it just so happened to be crypto. And within 10 minutes, I was hooked. As soon as we got off that call, I bought the first crypto that I'd ever bought in my life. And then, 4 days later, I was working his system. And something like 11 days later, we were sending out, test case from our clientele to say, hey, do you want to be a guinea pig in this experiment that would eventually become the plan?
No, I had my hand up. I didn't hit the button in time. I was on the wait list and missed that first that first $10,000 intake, but that's okay. Yeah. It's all good. And
well, it's cool because you were there, Regina, because sometimes parts of the story sound so unbelievable. It sounds like Hollywood fiction, but you had a front row seat. So everything I'm talking about, you experienced on the other side of that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was in that original Discord. As I said, I put my name down on that $10,000 wait list, and I kept getting messages from Ian saying, yeah, look, it's another 3 or 4 weeks, another 3 or 4 weeks. And then it was this message saying, hey, actually, it's not going to be 3 or 4 weeks. We're going to do it as a beta group. Do you want to save some money? And I was like, yep, pick me. So I was possibly one of the first, if not the first, to jump in on that very first beta back in, when was that? May, I think it was.
It was like May 28th was the first people from the one-on-ones that we couldn't accommodate. That took the $2,500 version of the beta course of what would become the plan. We officially launched it on June 2nd, the first beta round. And then we did 3 rounds of beta to make sure we could teach this thing as solidly as possible, build up the infrastructure behind it, really feel really like it was locked in. Because like the strategy that Dan has is one thing. So there's the presentation of it is another thing. Doing it and teaching it, 2 separate concepts. So we made sure we understood that and we could do that at scale. And so that's what ended up happening. And that's why we closed out last year, finally, after 6 months of rolling this thing out in public, where we're like, this is as good as it's going to get. We've tested it in the real world. We've optimized it, the packaging as well as what's inside the package. It's the thing I'm most proud of in my business career that we've ever been a part of. And that's kind of the backstory of how an anti-crypto
and it's been
person
such
like
fun
myself.
to be part of it too. Yeah, it's been, it's been awesome. So in a nutshell, for people who don't know what we're talking about, if you had to sort of put it into just a very short sentence or paragraph, what actually is the plan? Training.
The plan is a very unique way of making money with crypto because we trade on the volatility. So here's the joke Dan said to me. The very first one he said to me when we got on this call, the fateful day that changed everything, is he told me this joke about a wiggle worm. He says a guy pulls out a wiggle worm from his pocket, puts it on the bar, and he says to the guy next to him, hey, listen, you want to put some money on whether it's going to wiggle right or it's going to wiggle left? And the guy sat there puzzling it over, and some guy tapped him on the shoulder behind him and said, listen, I won't take that bet, but here's a bet I will take. I'll take the bet that the worm's going to wiggle. I don't know in which direction it will wiggle in, but I'll take the bet that it's going to wiggle. And he goes, that's what I'm doing. And then boom, he immediately showed us these automations that he was running in real time as they were occurring right there. And he was making money right in front of our eyes in real time as it was occurring. And so that's essentially what Dan has figured out here, is he's figured out a way to take volatility of crypto, which scares the bejesus out of everybody. Because Bitcoin could drop or go up 25% in a half a day. I joke like what it takes the NASDAQ or it takes the stock market 10 years to do, it takes 1 month to do in crypto. Yeah. And so the volatility of crypto is insane. So some people want to try to fight that. You're not going to fight that. That's like arguing with the sun to rise in the in the north instead of in the east, right? other people, what they try to do is they try to just say, okay, whatever, it is what it is. I hope I get lucky. And they play it that way. It's very risky. Other people say, I'm going to hold, or hodl, as they like to call it, all the cool kids in the crypto space. And that's good. It's like people starting a new diet, though. Oh, I'm not going to eat the chocolate. And then 8 o'clock that night, they're in the chocolate, right? So it's like most people can't do that. They don't have the constitution. I don't have the constitution to do that. It's a good idea on paper. It just doesn't survive the real world. And so all of these other ways in which people are trying to make money, or, they try to get on the next hot moonshot coin and all this nonsense. It's like, it's either reckless. It requires a sophistication that would probably take years in order to accomplish. And there's still
a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah.
I have friends who are like, oh, I didn't sleep last night, I was watching the markets. It's like, oh, okay.
I don't even know what the markets are. Like, you and I got on right before this call, when we were talking, just chit chatting. I was like, I don't know what the market's doing right now. It's like, the less I know, the better in this particular case. So in a nutshell, Dan figured out a way to use artificial intelligence. And I'd barely call it intelligence, because it's not that intelligent, but the way in which he sets it up, which only takes a few minutes, to automate this trading in crypto that churns the volatility into an advantage. That's what the plan is. And so it automatically makes you better than the best traders with the least amount of work you could ever possibly hope to have, because you're not going to do better than an automation can do, because you got to take naps and you're human, so you make human errors. And furthermore, it simultaneously allows you to get the benefit of holding a coin, which is really where all the real long-term value is at, while getting cash flow in the short term. Because here's what really kills people in the crypto space. They wake up one day and they say, oh my God, I made $10,000 because the price went up in value by $10,000 to what they had initially invested, right? Well, they haven't made any money, because you only make money when you sell the asset. So on paper, the value has went up by 10,000, but how are they supposed to know when to exit? Because, there's this reluctance. If I leave now and it goes up another big chunk, I have lost a significant amount of money, right? Or if, it's like, so there's like, I don't know, should I leave? Should I not leave? I don't want to kill a good thing. And at the same time, though, if the market corrects, they panic. The number one time somebody loses money in crypto is right after it gets to the highest point that it's ever been. And that's not a crypto exclusive. Before the dot-com bubble bust, there's a reason why there was so much money in there, because the bubble was really big. So people kept putting more money in, and more money kept growing and growing and growing. Nobody was taking money out, though. Everybody kept putting money in, putting money in, putting money in. And so the day before the biggest loss they've ever experienced in their life was the day they were the richest on paper that they'd ever been. And the cycle always repeats itself. So I don't want to fight human nature. I don't want to be the 0.1% that somehow figures out a way to work around that. What we do here is we allow that long-term holding position. But the reason why we can get around and not have to have the willpower to know when to buy and sell, or to hang in there when things are getting a little bit murky, is because we get the daily cash flow. And so the analogy that I like to use is this: say you buy a house, and the house is appraised at, way less than you bought it for. You bought it for $200,000, and the bank says, boy, you really got screwed. It's only actually worth $100,000. So you've lost half of the value of the asset that you just purchased, but you don't really care. And let me tell you why you don't care: because you got this tenant that is willing to pay you every single day to rent the property from you. And they pay you every day, and they pay you on time, every time, like clockwork. And whether the market of that house, the value goes up or down, you don't really care, because you got this tenant that's cash flowing you every single day. Now, if you ever wish to, like say some dude off the street walked down and says, listen, I'll pay you $1 million for the house today. You could still sell the house to him, right? You would lose the tenant, the cash flow, but whatever, right? Maybe you'd want to sell it if it got tremendously, ridiculously, stupidly high. But you don't have to ever feel like you have to sell anything, because on paper, that value can go up and down, and it will go up and down. It's crypto. Of course, it will go up and down. But in your pocket, that's going up, because the automations are collecting money from you on an hourly or sometimes even minutely basis. And so that alone offsets this desire or this urge to be like, oh my God, what's the value of this worth now? Should I sell it? Should I not sell it? You're buying and selling at all times of the day, and it's beautiful. You have cash flow, though, which is what most people need. They don't need long-term potential wealth accumulation. That's not something that most of us would benefit from in the immediate. What they need is breathing room. They need to have extra space between the bills and when they're due and how much money they have. They need to have disposable income. They need to have discretionary income. They need to be able to go out and not feel guilty about this anymore. They need to be able to survive, root canal emergencies and flat tires. Like, they need to have enough wiggle room and breathing room so then they can eventually focus on long term. But this is like, right now people are drowning and you're trying to tell them about they need to floss their teeth more, right? It's like, no, they need to quit drowning first before we can deal with other issues. And I think more so than anything, that's what the plan does. It puts cash flow in your pocket free and clear with minutes or less of effort involved. And it does that very consistently, utilizing crypto, which has been the highest producing asset class of the last decade.
And so people come to me and they say, oh, look, it's just another one of those, the rich are getting richer type schemes. So what sort of person would something like this be for in reality? And what have you seen with all of the students that we've had so far?
It's generally true that the rich are getting richer because, again, the rich have access to strategies and connections and intelligence and insight, and they don't have the pressure to have the money produced for them immediately. So it's true in general that the rich are getting richer, and it's true in general that the poor are getting poorer because the rich have more experience with investing, with making financial decisions. They have all that. So they have more support, they have more infrastructure, and they have more experience, okay? But that misses the larger point is, are there regular folks getting rich with this? Yes, there are. And how are they doing it? And is it repeatable and is it reliable? Because there are occasionally a regular old folk that gets rich by accident or by luck, or, somebody's got a breakthrough, right? So what is rich? So let's talk about some scenarios of rich. Let's say that you could run these three crypto automations a day, and each one produce for you, let's just say $50 a day. That's not outrageously high. It's on the low end, but it's not on the lowest end. Okay. $50 is a good, solid middle of the road number, which is weird because in marketing, you're used to people telling you about the one in the kind scenario. $50 a day on an automation is not, it's a Tuesday, right? That's not that big of a deal.
And
right?
so how, in order to get that $50, how much would somebody need to have invested?
Yes.
In their
so we will get to that, okay? Because that is an important. Let's just say we got 3 bots running, and I'll use the term bots and automations interchangeably here. So that's $50 a day per bot. There's 3 of them running. It's $150 a day in automation, and let's just say they run that rate for a year. So that's 365 days a year. That's $54,750. I don't think that there's a person listening to this right now whose life wouldn't significantly improve if they had an extra $54,000 in their bank account in the next year. Now, is that like you're buying a private jet? No, you can't even look at a private jet for that price, right?
Get a brochure, right?
That's a significant difference in lifestyle. That is a significant difference. That's going from riding the bus to having 2 cars in the garage, right? That's going from, oh man, I wish I could eat healthier, but I can't afford the healthy foods, to, yeah, I'm totally affording the healthy foods now, right? I mean, there's a million ways in which that's oh, I'm taking care of my parents and they're not in a facility that is really helpful for long-term senior living. I'll put them in a place that they deserve because they worked hard their whole life and they deserve this. And that's the difference, right? And I could list you 1,000 quality of life improvements. And that also allows you to then, again, as I say, focus on long-term wealth, because we're talking about the assets that are producing cash flow. The value of crypto as a whole is like a rising tide. If you can hang on for the next couple of years, 3 to 5 to 7 to 9, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it's a pretty damn safe assumption due to the disruptive technologies that crypto is creating, that overall the value is going to go up. Just like how iTunes replaced the record companies for streaming music, and now Apple is the richest company in the world. Just how Uber completely decimated the taxi industry, right? It makes sense. Those are the similar types of technology that what crypto is going to do, but crypto isn't going to just do that in the financial space. There's 57 industries that I am 95% confident it will completely disrupt in the same way that Uber has disrupted the taxi space. So naturally, if you're holding assets in those industries, they're going to go up. Just like if you bought Amazon stock 25 years ago, you're sitting on a lot more money today than you were when you first initially purchased that stock.
Okay, so to make that 54,000, going back to my question from
so
before.
What's the initial capital investment, right? Yeah, it's not nothing, but it's manageable for most people if they're willing to roll up their sleeves a little bit. So it's going to be, I like to put 5,000 in. The bare minimum that you would need to put in to make this thing go is $3,000. And for some people listening, I know 3,000 for one automation is it's a large amount of money. I get that. And I totally understand that. What I always like to think of is, okay, if the investment per automation to get an automation going is 3,000, and there, by the way, I want to unpack that more later because it's completely liquidable. You can close it, you can start it, you can get in and out of it, you can pause it whenever you wish to. You're in full control over it. Okay, so we'll unpack it a little bit more, but let's just say $3,000 on the table, put it in, right? Let's go. Okay, first of all, no matter what money you do or don't have, if it ain't working for you, you're losing. There's no doubt about it. Inflation is going to eat you alive because your dollar is losing its value every single day, or your pound or your yen or your whatever that you have for your currency. Okay. So you got to have your money do something for you. So if you have any amount of money saved away, where is it saved at and what's it doing for you? If it's in a savings account, you are just being completely ripped off because they pay you next to nothing. I don't know what it is. It's like 0.5% a year, depending on where you're at. Some places like Japan, you have to pay them to put your money in a savings account, right? And we're seeing more and more of that. So it's nothing. You put money in a savings account and it's nothing. You're not making money. The banks are making money, but you're not making money, okay? You say, well, gee, Jason, I'm going to put it in like a retirement account of some sort, okay? Well, usually what happens in those accounts is then they're farmed out to these managers, these fund managers who make a killing, by the way.
They do. They take so many fees. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, they got the game right. They learn how to make money when the market goes up and down, up or down, which is, by the way, what Dan does in the plan too. He's figured out a way for you to make money when it goes up and down. And we can talk more about that if we have time as well. And so it's like, where's your money at? What's it doing for you? If you want to look at traditional investments, who you would be jumping for joy if they produced 8 to 10% a year. I was before the plan hit, right? Most of those, to get into those assets, require way more than 3,000.
Oh yeah, like real estate. You know, you see these real estate. I know here in Australia, there's a big thing about real estate investment. Most people who do it for the tax write-off. It's like, well, hold on, you've got to be making a lot of money to get the tax write-off to make it worthwhile. Plus,
real estate is a fantastic investment.
It's thousands of dollars.
Just like crypto, I believe real estate is only going to be going up in value in the long term. Now it can go up and down and sideways in the short term, but over time, real estate's a fantastic investment. The only difference is we're not talking 3,000 to buy a plot of real estate. We're talking 300,000, or we're talking 100,000, and for about the same cash flow as what one of these automations can do. Okay. And that's incredible. That's such a good deal. And if you look at some other places that you could put money into that generally have a buy-in, they also have an event of illiquidity, meaning that you have to wait a certain period of time, or you can only access a certain amount of those funds and do much for them. And even there's certain things like, Wilson's mom, my business partner, she had money in a CD, a certificate of deposit, and it was making so little amount of money that he said to her, he says, like, hey, listen, what's the penalty to get out of that thing? Because, by the way, what a ridiculous concept to be penalized with your own money and what you can and can't do with it. That's another reason I love the plan, is nobody's saying, well, you can't touch this. Do whatever the hell you want with it, whenever you want with it, right? But it was such a small amount of money in terms of the fee and the penalty for her to move it out of that certificate of deposit and put it into the plan that it was a no-brainer. So, while different people have different initial amounts of capital to invest, the idea is, regardless, we all need to have our money working for us, and we need to do it in a smart way that requires the least amount of time on our part, that gets us the most amount of return for that. And you need that if you want to truly escape whatever financial uncertainty you're in right now. You need that. That needs to be part of your plan. And that's what the plan offers you. Now, this is what I like to talk about here, is like, why is it 3,000? I wish it could be $50. It certainly would make us being able to sell this course tremendously easier. If I could say, hey, listen, it's only $50, just get started on it. Okay. And And do I financially have an incentive to have you put 3,000 in the market? I have zero. Whether you put 3 million, 3,000, or nothing in, if you buy the course, that's my financial incentive. So if you buy the course, I get paid.
That's yeah. That's such a huge thing, because there's so much stuff out there at the moment, and a lot of it is slightly scammy, and some of it is the Ponzi schemes where invest $50 and then ask all of your friends to invest $50, and yet for every $50 that they put in, you get X% of that, and it becomes this whole thing. But up front they say, oh yeah, no, you don't have to invite anybody in, it's not a Ponzi scheme. And then when you dig a little bit deeper, that's exactly what it is. So that's
generally
the
more complicated the pay schedule is, the more scammy the thing is in general, right? Exactly. So it's like, if somebody's got to break out a chart and they got to take you out to lunch for 30 minutes to explain it, it raises red flags. Let's just put it that way. And so in this particular instance, I don't get paid from any place that you would buy crypto from. I don't get a kickback on that. I don't manage anybody's money. I'm not a fund manager. I'm not licensed in any financial way, shape, or form, nor is anybody associated with the plan. We're an education and information company. We make our money publishing and supporting information. And so the reality here is, I don't take a fund fee, and the more money you put in, the more money, none of that stuff, right? I make the same amount of money. So what we have a duty towards is giving you the most sound, solid plan to be profitable in crypto. And Dan talks about how this works, and one of the analogies he uses is the spider web analogy. And so like a spider casts a web with a whole bunch of different webbings in it to catch food. And that's essentially what we do with these automations, is we're buying and selling all the way at all points in time. So the bot mathematically says, I am only allowed to sell this tiny little bit of crypto that I bought at a fraction of a percent higher than what I bought it for. So as long as there's a buyer that it can find, the bot is always going to make you money. That's a mathematical certainty, because it can't sell it for less than what it bought it for. Now, true, it's only going to cash you out at 25 cents a pop, or 30 cents a pop, or 15 cents a pop, or 40 cents a pop. But Regina, you've experienced this. A lot of quarters, nickels, and dimes, they add up to a pretty good chunk, right?
It's nice to wake up and say, oh, I made $100 overnight while I slept.
It's incredible, even though we're doing it at a quarter a time. And so now imagine a spider web that only has like 5 little things in there to catch a fly. It'll catch nothing. Flies will fly right through it. If they tap on one of it, they won't get caught. They won't get stuck in it. And so 3,000 is the amount of lines in the spider web that are needed for you to capture that volatility. Anything less is dangerous. Anything more, fantastic. Go for it. Go nuts. If you want to put more in, you can totally put more in. But that's the bare minimum where we would feel comfortable recommending it to a friend, a family member, or anybody that's following the plan, is that initial capital expenditure of putting that 3 in. Now, again, just to emphasize, you could do whatever you want with it. So you use it to turn it on an automation, and then the next day you want to turn the automation off for whatever reason, you can turn it off. If you say, listen, the automation I set up was pretty cool, but I think I found a better one over here. Okay, close that one down and start that one. Do whatever the heck you want with it. That is totally within your control, because the crypto is completely within your control at all times. It's 100% and only within your control. We are just using automations that interface with that while it's still in your control to get more out of it than what 99.9% of people are doing with crypto. They're buying it once in a while in one gigantic chunk, and then they're manually deciding when and how much to sell. Whereas we are buying and selling it all the time in small little slices, because the market is volatile. So there's always crazy amounts of buyers and sellers at all sorts of prices as it goes up and down. And we're doing all that through pure automation. And it's simple, it's safe, it's super conservative. But don't be surprised when you see the numbers. Like whenever we do a webinar, because it's unbelievable. If I say this out loud, nobody's going to believe me, Regina, but it's like, that's why when we do the webinar, we take the first 18 people that Dan taught one-on-one this system to, and we show every single one of their live automations in that moment as they occur. Every single one, we show them all. Because if I were to say, like a 40% return a year on average, or a 30% or a 50%, or, I got ones that are over 100% in less than 9 months, right? You'd say that's insane, especially when it's safety first. Like the amount of conservative, safety first, let's just be extra cautious that goes into the plan is ridiculous. So it seems contradictive that the returns are better than what I've seen than anything else personally myself, while the safety is higher than in any other system or process I've seen. And that extends beyond crypto. That extends to any other investment that I've seen. And I've seen a lot.
So in terms of risk tolerance,
yes,
this is something that I talk to people about quite a lot. I personally have a very high risk tolerance. I'm an entrepreneur. I'll jump in feet first. You know, I can be poor one day, rich the next, and poor, you know, the third one in a row. I'm used to that. But a lot of people are not that risk tolerant. So what do we say to people who are very risk averse in a situation like this?
I say one of two things. You either avoid crypto completely or you follow the plan, because I don't think there's any other way to do it. There's a third way. You buy crypto and then you wait 10 to 15 years. And I think you should do that anyway. I'm certainly doing that now. But while I'm holding it, I'm also getting benefit out of it. So that's, you know, makes it a lot easier. But there's always risk in every single investment. In fact, there's risk in doing nothing at all. So nobody factors that concept in, but there's literally risk in doing nothing. And perhaps that might be the riskiest thing. But there's going to be risk in crypto. There's going to be risk in the plan. Anybody who tells you that their thing is foolproof and that there's no risk involved, they're either the most naive person that you've ever met in your life, or they're the biggest liar you've ever met in your life. There's certainly risk. So what I like about what we do in the plan is, first of all, if we lose, we tend to lose significantly less. And there's a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is the way in which we buy the crypto is done through a concept called dollar cost averaging. So we're not buying large amounts of crypto because we heard something on YouTube or something was published in the news, or we woke up and said, gee, I just got to be in this, and impulsively put a whole bunch of money in.
I've done that before.
Yeah, you and everybody else, which is why 99%.
I'm an expert at buying high, selling low. That's my claim to fame.
Everybody is, because it's like that. The market penalizes emotion, which is tough because we're emotional creatures. And so it's very hard to beat the market, because you got to have intelligence and you have to have the ability to not have emotions. But with these automations, we bypass that because we're dollar cost averaging. We're buying a little bit of the crypto all the way up and all the way down. So if we do happen to lose, and we lose occasionally, it's very rare, but it's possible, we lose a tremendously amount that's a lot less than everybody else. We're the type of people that when we jump out of the plane, we don't have just a backup parachute. We have a couple of them, and we got an instructor next to us and everything, right? Like, we're extra cautious. Now, there are instances where everybody else loses and we still win, because the amount of the bot profit that it's capturing in cash flow can exceed any loss that occurs if you decided that you were completely out and you wanted to take your chips off the table. Now, you don't ever have to, but if you're like, okay, this is insane, this coin has lost 80% of its value, which can happen, I got to get out of here. But if the bot has captured 80% in realized profit, you exit at completely break even. If it's captured 81% of its profit, you, my friend, just made a 1% return on an asset that dropped 80% in value. And I've seen that. I've had coins that have dropped 50% in value, but I've made a 70% return on. The spread on that is insane, right? And so when it goes down, if you lose, you tend to lose a lot less than everybody else. When it goes down, there are instances where you will make money, okay? Now, when the market just kind of does its thing, which is what it's doing right now, it's not going up or down. It's really boring. That's the most dangerous time of all, by the way, for investors. This is, devil, idle hand, whatever that saying is, right? People feel like they need to do something. They need to sell because they're not making money or they're not losing money right now. That's almost everybody in the crypto space. That's when they panic again, or they do something rash, or they shake things up, or that's when an investment they would never touch with a 10-foot pole all of a sudden becomes attractive. Now, in a market where people are neither making or losing money, that's like our favorite market, because in that market, there's still tiny little fluctuations. So while we're waiting for the market to figure out, am I going to boom or am I going to bust? We're capturing profits and we're going about our day. And so when people are neither making or losing money, we're making money. Not as much as we would when everything's going good, but more than everybody else pretty much, right? And then when the market goes up, fantastic. We still make money. And so we tend to make as much money as everybody else does when the market goes up. We tend to make some money when the market stays flat and everybody else just twiddles their thumb. And by some, it's a pretty respectable amount. And if the market completely crashes, we either tend to lose a significantly less amount of money, or in some instances, break even, or in other instances still, actually turn a profit if we were to sell everything, which is the thing we do the least of. We don't kill the goose. We just let the goose lay the golden eggs. I don't care if the guy down the street tells me he'll pay twice as much or 5 times as much as what I bought it for. The goose is laid in eggs, and we know that the eggs are always able to be cashed out, whether or not the goose can be sold. And so we just typically let the goose do his thing. But psychologically, that stops somebody from being their worst enemy, which is why I love the plan. Is people left and right, without any convincing or without a whole bunch of effort, they're just like, whatever, market goes up, market goes down. I don't care. I'm cash flowing every single day, with rare exception. And there are exceptions, because you could fall out of the bottom of a grid. What that means is the coin has dropped so low that we say, hold on, we're not going to buy and sell anymore. We're just going to wait for it to, quit being a schizophrenic for a while. And during that time, you're not going to get cash flow. But a majority of the time, and again, that's a redundancy. You could turn on a feature called trailing down and capture it all the way down. We don't recommend that, because safety first, right? Markets are going to correct. Markets are going to rally. You will be back into cash flow. The tenant went on vacation for a little bit. A majority of the time, we're just eating up cash flow. And the market, we feel overall in the next 5 to 7 years is going to go up. So I can hang out and wait for 5 to 7 years to see the coin double or triple or quadruple in value. But I'm also excited because I've already captured that much, if not more, in the wiggle, the day-to-day profit that it's made as it's volatilely went up and down, because nothing goes straight up and nothing goes straight down. And so, yeah, I think you want to be in crypto. Crypto is the fastest growing asset. It's going to disrupt and completely revolutionize not just finance, but every other area of industry and commerce, with rare exception. Right now, it's designed to be fair. What I mean by that is, if you were to try to trade something on the stock market 5,000 times tomorrow, couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. If you were an institutional investor who controlled billions of dollars, then you could do it. But you and me, no. It rules for thee, but not for me, right? How is that fair? It's not fair, but it is what it is, right? For now, and for I think at least another decade or two, until it is figured out how to be rigged so the elites can have some control over it. Until then, it's fair game. I want to trade 5,000 in crypto 5,000 times in the day by tomorrow. I can do that. You can do that. Anybody can do that. I don't have to wait for the market to open up and close like a stock market. How antiquated of a concept is this? This is just an example of why this whole business is about to be disrupted. Markets don't open and close in crypto. They just stay open, which is more akin to the world we live in today, not the world of the 50s, right? And so right now it's a level playing field, and it's going to stay that way for not forever, but for the next at least 5 years, probably 10 years. And so while it's level, little folks like you and I, we can get in as long as we have a plan. As it goes up in 10 years, we will cash in on that when we decide to completely exit or liquidate in mass in large amounts of money. But even if we do nothing, this is like a dividend. This is like that IRA or that retirement account that you have, or that 401k or whatever it's called in whatever country you live in. This is like not just saying, hey, listen, on paper, your investments have went up 10%. This is like, hey, listen, every week I'm showing up with a bag full of cash. Here you go. And oh, by the way, your investments have also went up 10%. And I think that is the beautiful, most elegant thing about the plan, is it changes your day-to-day life for the better, while it still improves your overall net worth and value for the long term.
Excellent. So I now want to address the bear in the room, so to speak. So the last few months, a couple of months, crypto and Bitcoin has been sort of dribbling downwards. As we record this today, it's the 22nd of February here where I am in Australia. Bitcoin is just a little under 40,000, I think. It did go up to 69,000. We were all super happy then. It's sitting a little bit low at the moment. What's your thinking on, for me, I'm buying as much as I can and starting new bots. But, some people are a little bit nervous. Too, right?
I'm doing that regardless of the coin price of Bitcoin, though. That's what's funny is like, Bitcoin could certainly drop another 20,000 or 40,000 even. I know that sounds ridiculous to say, right?
Hush your mouth.
but it's like, hey, it's like, is dynamite dangerous to handle? Of course it is, right? So it's like Bitcoin can do whatever the hell Bitcoin's going to do. It could also equally, and this is what's exciting about this, it could go up 60,000. It could break 100,000 in the next month or less. Neither scenario is out of the realm of possibility, and I love it, because that's the inherent volatility that's required for us to make the money in the plan. Now, I know for most people, it doesn't feel good if you're looking at it and it says, hey, the profit and loss of the sum total of your investments today, if you were to sell everything, you would lose 20%. Nobody gets excited about that. That doesn't feel good, right? But I've learned to just ignore that for the short term and say, listen, how much more money is in my account, my exchange, that the bots have collected today than yesterday? Oh, cool. It's more than I had yesterday. I'm richer today than I was yesterday. So yeah, of course, if I were to sell, I would lose. I would take a loss. But I don't really care, because I believe over the next 3 to 5 years, Bitcoin is going to go up and past 60,000. In the next 5 years, it would be a shock to me if it didn't do 100,000. Now, I have no idea what it's going to do in the next day, week, or month, or even in the next 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 months. And so I don't care. I mean, you could spin it this way. A lot of people spin it this way, and God bless them. They say, hey, it's on discount right now, so I'm buying at a discount. Dan likes to think of it that way. I think that's a good way of looking at it. Glass half full, glass half empty, and all that. And so that's why I'm still buying Bitcoin. But I'm buying Bitcoin when the price is high, relatively speaking, and when the price is low, relatively speaking. I'm buying a little bit every single day, as I think everybody should. I think that's the most responsible. So I bought it in the dip. I bought it in the peak. I've bought it in the middle. I'm going to buy it when it's 100,000. I'm going to continue to buy it because I am absolutely certain, as certain can be, that in the next 5 to 10 years, Bitcoin and its ilk, meaning all the other coins, and we only deal with major coins. I can't stress that enough. Only major coins do we touch or mess with. Remember, safety first, right? We are confident that a majority of those coins are like the rising tide that lifts all boats. If Bitcoin's going to go up, they're going to follow suit. And so, yeah, you can get in right now and you can get in at a discount. Maybe it could stay this way for the next 6 months. It could drop another 10 to 25% in value. And in every one of those scenarios, I would feel good about having you on the plan, because what won't change, Bitcoin's price will change. What won't change is the inherent volatility of cryptocurrency until it finds its footing, which is going to take quite a while. And until that happens, let's take advantage of being in the right time, in the right place, with the right plan.
Love that. So how many people have done the training now overall?
Oh man,
you know?
It's almost as many that are the population of the city that I was born and raised in. I don't know the exact amount. It's tens of thousands. It's over 10,000. I know that. Here's what I do know: we have had clients in 128 different countries. And I had to look it up. I'm like, how many countries are there in the world? Right now, there are 193 countries that are officially recognized. And we have clients of the plan in 128 of those countries. Although now it might be more, because we just opened it up again for a very limited time. We tend to take them in chunks, support them, train them all up, making sure they're taken care of, and then open the doors again. So we open and close it. We have that cadence and that rhythm. But we just opened it up again for a brief time. And we're probably at 129 or 130 countries at this point. We always seem to pick up one or two. So yeah, we're all over the place. And Dan, this is what he said to me. He says, listen, on The Secret, it took us a year to have this type of global presence that we've had in half a year on the plan. And so, yeah, as humbling as it is for me to be just who I am as a person. I'm just a small town Iowa boy and all that jazz. To be part of something that we did in half a year, what The Secret did in a full year in terms of, and it was on Oprah and all over the place, right? It's a vote of confidence that we're really stumbled upon something that is really helping a lot of people.
Amazing, amazing. So what have I forgotten to ask you?
What have you forgotten to ask me? Yeah, I mean, Everything and nothing, right? So the idea here is like, if you want to know more, how do you get to know more? It's very simple. From time to time, we do these trainings. Dan runs point on them, and then I come and provide support, and so does the team as well. We're kind of just a two-headed monster of the deal, right? That's where you'd want to go, because all this stuff here sounds good, sounds interesting. Hopefully it was interesting, but wait till you see it live. And by live, I mean, the automation software that we use allows you to share all the live bots. So if you have a URL, if the user logs in there and says, here's my share URL, then you have the ability whenever you want to look into their account, see their exact coins that they're holding, see exactly when they started holding them, see exactly how long they've been trading for, see exactly how much values went up or down, and seeing how much exact value that the bot has captured in actual realized profit. And that's what we do on the trainings. The free trainings, we provide background and education and information, but we also show the 18 folks that paid us $10,000. We show them exactly as they stand today, regardless of market condition. And I think that's really where it clicks for somebody. It's a picture,
very powerful,
1,000 words, right? And that's what we do. And so the idea is, if you're really interested in this, you got to catch that. That's the most important thing.
And wherever you're seeing this particular video, there will be a link somewhere for you to click to catch that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then invest in the plan, or don't invest in the plan, but at least you'll see it. I mean, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, what's a live video worth?
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute joy and a pleasure to chat with you. I think it's been a few years since I've seen you live in person. Hopefully it won't be that long till we see each other again somewhere in the world.
Yes, we used to do those Amazon trainings together.
I know, right? There was that one year where I went to Vegas, I think 6 times to catch up with you guys.
Yeah,
it was
those were good times. Yeah.
But life moves on. Amazing. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome, Regina.